The Country Hour on ABC Radio WA.
Bit of change of tack now for the moment, because shares in Indian company Lanco Infratech, which is the company that's the parent of Collie's Griffin Coal, have dropped 45% in the past week, and workers were out in front of the mine this morning for a slightly different reason, striking amid ongoing pay disputes. But what is going on with Lanco and Griffin Coal? Well, Tim Buckley is the Director of Energy Finance Studies Australasia for the Institute for Energy Economics and Financial Analysis, known as IEEFA. He says that Lanco's share price drop comes down to Indian banking reforms.
The Reserve Bank of India has very belatedly but aggressively moved to try and force a resolution of a massive build-up in stranded assets and non-performing loans that's really choking the Indian banking sector. And so last week, they announced a hit list, and they announced that the first 12 companies on the hit list were going to tell the bankers to those companies to put them into insolvency, which is a bit of a first for India. It's a change in the law in India. Prime Minister Modi has given a new, more aggressive law to the Reserve Bank of India to try and reform what's been a horrific lending practice in the Indian banking system for the last decade.
So for those listening in and around that Collie region, they would know Lanco very well as the owner of Griffin Coal, and particularly for the past couple of years, there seems to be problem after problem with the company. So, but you're saying that up until now, insolvency hasn't even been on the table?
Well, no, India did not have any real insolvency law the way you or I would think about it in Australia or in America. India just literally did not have the ability for a bank to put a company into insolvency if they refused to pay their bills. So, Lanco has actually been in financial distress, in my view, for 3, 4, 5 years. They've actually been in a debt workout, distressed loan debt workout for the last couple of years. But this is a new law which has made it a little more aggressive and gives the banks ultimately the tool they need to actually resolve loans that are clearly not performing and are never going to get repaid.
So what's in Lanco's immediate future now that India's taking a relook at how they've done things alongside these other companies?
Well, if we step back, it's really important for India to India's the largest, fastest growing economy in the world. It's likely to grow at maybe 6, 7, 8% per annum for the next decade or two on our forecasts. But that requires huge amounts of new financial investment, and it needs a banking system that works. So these reforms that Prime Minister Modi is pushing through the Reserve Bank of India are critical. They're very, very positive. They're very necessary, but they do involve some very aggressive short-term pain. There's always pain before the gain, and that Lanco has been festering now for years. So finally, the Reserve Bank has given its bankers the power to actually act and resolve the problem.
What is likely to be the future of that mine there and those workers?
The short answer is dire and diabolical, but ultimately the people of Collie and the workers down at the Griffin Coal mine are effectively bearing the brunt of absolute policy failure in Australia and policy and financial failure back in India. But the WA government has known for years that the Griffin Coal mine was in absolute financial distress. I mean, it's been in distress since the day Lanco Infratech paid $740 million to buy a business. The Chinese had come in and bought the Premier mine from Wesfarmers for $300 million a couple of months before that. Lanco paid 2.5 times the price the Chinese paid for effectively an inferior business. And the business, Griffin Coal, has been losing money at the gross cash flow level every year for the last 7 years. So it hasn't generated $1 as profit to actually even fund the interest, let alone the capital. So every politician in WA who had a look would have known this was a debacle waiting to happen. I think it's a travesty that the WA government the last WA government hasn't got involved and tried to sort out a solution to somehow protect the workers and the people of Collie, because this is going to be a painful transition. It's an inevitable transition. It's happening in Collie, it's happening in the Latrobe Valley in Victoria, it's happening in the Hunter Valley. The New South Wales has a slow-moving train wreck in the Hunter Valley. We've seen it up in the Galilee and in the Bowen Basin in Queensland. It's happening all around Australia, and unfortunately our governments are just not looking at the inevitability of this transition, nor are they stepping up and looking for solutions.
Thank you so much for your time on the program. We'll have to keep in touch with you for a bit of that further insight.
Thank you.
Tim Buckley is the Director of Energy Finance Studies Australasia with energy analytics company IEEFA.